I've said it before, and I will say it till my dying day. I hate the idea of the hot seat because there are a lot of factors that go into things that nobody ever really knows or talks about, and we pretend like we do. With all of that said, here are the Big Ten coaches that I think might be on the hot seat in 2025. And I think that the list is so interesting because if you look at the SEC, you can say, hey, these are the guys that have to have a really good year in 2025 to feel somewhat secure. If you look at the ACC and even the Big 12, which we haven't got to yet, but will eventually, I think that there are definitive folks on that list. And I think there's more than one. In the Big Ten, I think there's one. I think there's one coach who is like, hey, we got to figure it out this year. Otherwise, we are in a world of trouble. And it's Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. Had 7 wins in year number 1, which is not good enough at Wisconsin. And 5 wins last year. Snapped the bowl streak. And the question now becomes, is this the year that he gets it turned around and hits the expectations that Wisconsin expects to be somewhat easy to attain? Or is Wisconsin in the market for a new coach? It's that simple. Either Luke Fickell gets things turned around and has a good enough year to save his job, which Badger fans hope gets the snowball rolling to, hey, the future looks somewhat good, rather than, oh, God, what are we going to do? Because I think there was a sizable portion, of Big Ten fan bases that when Luke Fickell got hired at Wisconsin went, oh, boy, that is not great because he's going to turn them into a really good program. And for whatever reason, and I think you can probably point to the idea that, like, we're going to run the air raid at Wisconsin as reason for why that hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. And I think I lean more towards Luke Fickell might not make it through 2025 more than Wisconsin gets things turned around. They look really impressive, and all the questions are wiped away. I think it's much more likely he doesn't make it through 2025 rather than they are a top 25 caliber program. They win 9 games, and people are talking about the Badgers as a playoff contender in 2026. I just don't see that happening. I think Luke Fickell, you look around the Big Ten and you wonder why the argument can be made that the Big Ten has surpassed the SEC outside of winning the last 2 national championships and the SEC not being included in either of those national championship games. I think it's the stability in the coaching. Because if there's a guy that is on the hot seat, and you can make the argument, I think, that I don't know that I would buy it, that like Mike Locksley at Maryland might be on the mildly warm seat. That, like, if you're going on the B-dubs chart of heat, Mike Locksley might be like sweet barbecue. They went 4-8 last year at Maryland. Not great. And he's never won more than 8 games. But is Mike Locksley on the hot seat at Maryland? No, not really. Because I think they're relatively understanding of who they are, what the expectations are, and he has, for the most part, met them. Were there hopes and wishes that we're going to hire Mike Locksley and he's going to keep everybody in the DMV, Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia, all those high-profile, big-time recruits are going to stay at Maryland? Has he done exactly that? No. But to argue that he is on the hot seat or hasn't accomplished much at Maryland is probably not true, fair, or accurate. Now, I think there's one coach that fans would like to see on the hot seat, and I totally get it. But I don't think he's on the hot seat, and it's Lincoln Riley. I don't think Lincoln Riley is on the hot seat. Has he seen his win total drop in each of the last 3 seasons? Yes. Have things gone from really good in year number 1 to holy hell, what are we going to do if this guy doesn't pan out? Yes. Should USC be better this year than they were last year and potentially the year before? Also, yes. Does Lincoln Riley get a pass because USC changed conferences for a year? I think the answer to that is probably. Yeah. The most important thing for Lincoln Riley is that he has a huge buyout that USC can't afford. It's estimated between $80 to $90 million for him to not be their coach anymore. That is a problem to pay someone to not be your coach anymore, especially if you ain't got it. And USC ain't got it because they spent all their money hiring Lincoln Riley as their head coach. So I think he's safe at least for another year. I think if you were to inject true serum into the USC athletic department, you would probably be told, best case scenario, USC wins 10 games in 2025, and the NFL comes calling. And then you're like, you know what? Like, we can't stand in the way of the NFL, Lincoln. You should go. Because I would guess that they probably don't feel great that he's going to be the guy to lead them back to the promised land that Pete Carroll once had them, that John Robinson once had them. I don't think that is super likely, to be truthful. But I do think that this year will be the year that our win total has dropped each of the last 3 seasons. Type deal. I don't think that that's going to continue in 2025. I think USC is going to be significantly improved. But when you start wading into the manufactured, this guy, I guess, could be on the hot seat, like David Braun at Northwestern, could be mildly warm, but I don't even know how you could argue that. Sure, they stunk last year. Absolutely. The dude is recruiting kids to a lacrosse stadium on Lake Michigan while their stadium, that's going to be bomb, by the way, gets built. He inherited a program that didn't go so well the year before he got hired and got thrust into the job. He's going to get some extra time to put that program together the way he wants it built. So while 4-8 wasn't a great 2024, I don't think, even if 2025 doesn't go very smashingly, I still think that barring a 0-12, lost every game by 40, and there was a controversy that involved a bucket of ice chips and a buffalo, live or stuffed, preferably stuffed for safety's sake, I don't think that David Braun has anything to worry about. It's the same kind of thing with Deshaun Foster at UCLA. Did he have a great debut campaign? No, he didn't. 5-7. But he got a new I beg your pardon, UCLA is in a new conference. He got the job in not the greatest circumstances where Chip Kelly just decided, you know what? Being a head coach sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. Deshaun Foster, like David Braun, gets extra time. The only other coach that I don't think he's on the hot seat, I think fans might wish that, hey, you know what? It's been a great run, big guy, is Kirk Ferentz at Iowa. He just turned 70 years old, and they've traded 10 wins and 8-win seasons the last 4 years, which I don't think is all that big of an issue, by the way. I don't think that Iowa fans can be like, oh, God, I wish we could get somebody in here who could win 11 games. I don't know that the grass is always greener on that side of the fence. And like Lincoln Riley, Kirk Ferentz has a huge buyout. It's $42 million. So probably not going anywhere unless he decides he wants to. But that seat is still relatively cool because I think the administration at Iowa has a pretty good understanding of what they might be without Kirk Ferentz. And while he had the whole, hey, your son really sucks as an offensive coordinator deal, I think overall, I don't think he's got a whole lot to worry about as far as job security goes. I don't think he can sit there and wonder, if we go 7-6 this year, am I in trouble? Because I don't think he is. Which I think is remarkable for a conference as big as the Big Ten. You look around, and there's definitively a guy on the hot seat. I think it speaks to the hiring that the Big Ten has done, the stability and the support that the programs have given and that the universities have given to their head coaches to say, hey, we're going to put you in a position to succeed. We're going to get out of the way. It's up to you. And so far, a big chunk of those guys have succeeded. I find it remarkable, truthfully, especially when you just got done looking at who the ACC and SEC coaches that are on the hot seat or even the mildly warm seat. When you start digging to the if the hot seat, Mike Locksley is Parmesan garlic on the heat scale. I think that's pretty impressive for the Big Ten. Want to know your thoughts? Who is on the hot seat in the Big Ten? Did I miss somebody? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. I appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing so. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content we're pumping out. If you're listening on the podcast feed, drop a 5-star review. It goes a long way in helping out the channel. I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of the Daily Huddle.